While the last few years have been a roller coaster ride, to say the least, 2024 could be the year that takes the cake, and I mean that literally. The question is, will it go their way or will something stop it? And I think that either way we lose. But will we lose the battle or will we lose the war? Meaning, will we force change, accountability, and a little bit of rationality in this clown world that we're living in? Or will we continue on being led like cattle to the slaughter? That, I think, has yet to be determined. Over the past decade, we've seen what happens when you go against the machine. And we've seen how brazen they become, feeling like they can do whatever they want. And to this point, they actually can. In this video, I want to go over 5 possible scenarios that could turn 2024 on its head. 5 situations that could have an impact far beyond 2024. But before I get into what's possible in the coming year, I have a question. Why are the elites preparing, and is it something that we should really even care about? Quite a few million and billionaires have been building bunkers and preparing lately for something that they helped create, by the way. But I'm not sure it will actually, quote unquote, save them like they think it will. There is a lot more to being prepared than just having a bug out bag, having food storage, or having a nice 5,000 square foot survival shelter. To me, I have the feeling that these bunkers that these super rich people, these elites are building, are going to belong to somebody else shortly after the S hits the fan. Now, who really knows? Maybe they've hired some prepping consultants and they're doing things right and they are thinking like a prepper, but I highly doubt it. At any rate, leave a comment below and let me know what you think. Is it something we should be paying attention to? Is it just rich people doing rich people things? Or is it rich people doing rich people things because they have a little bit of inside knowledge or they see where everything is headed? Curious to see your response. So let's go ahead and go over the 5 things that I think are a possibility, a big possibility this year that could really turn things upside down. And I'm going to leave the biggest one for last, the one that I am the most concerned about in 2024. But let's start with the big one that has been on my radar for years, and that's inflation and spending. Spending has been one of these things that has been on my radar for over a decade now, and it just seems like something where the can just gets kicked down the road time and time again. And just when you think you can't go any higher, they go higher and business goes on as usual. When you look at the usdebtclock.org website, you can see here that at this time of recording this video, our national debt is $34 trillion. This is, it's just astronomical. And when you look even lower, you look at the unfunded liabilities we have, we're looking at $97 trillion. That is absolutely insane to me. We are at the point in this country where you see on this chart here, $726 billion that we are paying per year on interest alone. That number is absolutely astronomical to me, and I just can't see how that is sustainable. But that also goes into the other concerning trends that I see as far as inflation and spending, and that is the CBDC, the central bank digital currency. I think all of this has to come to a head at some point, and the rollout of the CBDC is absolutely inevitable. And I think we are going to see some steps taken this year to make sure to get those pieces in place, to make sure that they can account for every little penny that they can, whether that's Venmo transactions, PayPal transactions, having garage sales, whatever they can do to nickel and dime and get every little penny they can, they are going to do. The CBDC also has other implications and some of the other things I'm going to talk about today that really make it a lot easier for the government to get what they want and understand what you are doing and make sure you are towing the company line. You've also got some shipping issues. You see the things going on in the Red Sea right now. You've got, which could lead to possible shortages, which all could lead to an unstable economy, the inflation, all those things that we've been seeing over the last 4 or 5 years. Those could become a real issue as well. The shipping issues I'll go into later when I talk about global conflicts, but the inflation and the outrageous spending that our politicians do, and it doesn't seem to bother them one bit, that is a big concern this year, next year, and the 10 years before this, and the 10 years after this, until something finally gives. And I think this may be the year that we see something, that turning point, I suppose. The next alarming trend that I see, and I'm not sure how big this is going to be, but it could be huge, and that's AI advancements. With artificial intelligence, which is neither artificial nor intelligent, this is woke programming and political correctness on steroids is basically what it is at this point. But there are things that could happen because of this that really lead to making these three-letter alphabet agencies' jobs much, much easier. You've got privacy, you've got tracking. You look at the World Economic Forum's game plan, and they've had this laid out for years. So they've seen this coming. This isn't like something that they're trying to figure out. They've seen this coming for years, and they are looking at ways to harness this technology and use it in ways in order to keep us in control, basically. So who really knows where this goes and who really knows how fast it goes? Look at the internet. Back in 1990 is when it really started to pick up steam. So you're talking about 30 years or so to get to the point where we are right now. You've got cell phones that back in 2000, very few people actually had those, or they had the flip phones. And look where cell phones are today. It's basically a tracking device we keep in our pocket. So when you look at how quickly technology advances, I think with artificial intelligence, we're going to see that skyrocket just because of the things that it can do. And it's going to be far-reaching. It could have an impact on the economy as well because of jobs and layoffs and things like that. So it's really hard to say exactly what could happen because of artificial intelligence, but I know that it's going to make huge advancements this year. It's going to come out of the dark ages like it is right now, where it's basically chat bots and pictures and things like that. And it's going to be a whole lot, I don't know that I want to say scarier, but it could get to that point in 2024. And it just makes these three-letter alphabet agencies' jobs so much easier. It makes it so much easier for the government and these other agencies to know exactly what you're doing, where you're spending your money, what you're spending your money on, and where you go on a daily basis. So it is something that is high on my radar going into 2024. Where do the advancements in artificial intelligence go? The next concern I have is the open borders. And I've been watching this all year, and it seems like the floodgates are open and there's really no concern about it, almost to the point where it seems intentional. Now, my concern going into 2024 is not necessarily the open borders themselves, but what we're going to see because the floodgates have been open for so long. Who is in here now? We could see sleeper cells that sort of start to formulate. And as I go through a couple more of these, maybe there are certain situations where they are activated. You've got all sorts of nationalities coming across the borders these days. It's not just South America. You've got people from the Middle East coming over. You've got people from China coming over. You've got people from all over the place. And I've said this in a past video. We've made so many enemies that why not? Why wouldn't somebody seize on an opportunity like this? So terrorism attacks, sleeper cells, larger conflicts, all of those things I think we can see in 2024. Now, are they smaller scale or is it something bigger? And I think that is yet to be seen. But the after effects of just opening the floodgates down south really are going to have an impact, I think, this year. And we should be ready and prepared to see some repercussions of the things that have been going on the last couple of years. Next, I have global conflicts. And this is a really tough one because there are a lot of things going on. First and foremost, you've got the military recruitment, which is severely lacking in this country. You've got the lack of trust in the military. You've got the lack of mental fortitude of some of the younger people these days. And at the same time, it's not all their fault because the military these days, you sort of have to wonder what they're doing in the first place, what they're all about. With the military industrial complex, you're not sure what is actually necessary and what actually isn't. What is trading bodies for dollar bills these days? And I think that's the mentality that a lot of people have, and their trust in the military has just waned over the last decade or so. On top of that, you also have the depleted arsenal, this thing going on out in Europe. And this is not just us, this is a lot of Western countries. But what does that mean if something happens in the future between China, between the things that are going on in the Middle East, North Korea? I mean, like I said, we've got a lot of enemies. So what does that mean if something kicks off in 2024? Are we going to be able to deal with that situation? And honestly, we don't really know what's going on, but it sure seems like to me that we are sending a lot over there, using a lot, and leaving ourselves severely underprepared. And finally, you also have the situation in China, which could go a couple of different ways. Their economy is teetering on the brink, but you also have the Taiwan factor where are they going to decide that this is the time to go in to take over what they need to? You've got the elections coming up in Taiwan. You've got their economy, like I said, just in shambles. So does that start to fall apart? It's just hard to say because China is such a question mark, but does have the potential to be a large disruption. You know, North Korea may not be all that bad unless they launch nukes, but China would be a huge issue. And who's coming along with them? If it's China, it's possibly Russia, it's possibly Iran. You've got things going on in the Middle East right now that could kick off in 2024 as well. So just so many moving parts to all these global conflicts, whether some of them are intentional and some of them are not. There are a lot of things going on that we should be prepared for. Now, the last one I've got here, and this is the big one to me, because this is something is going to happen around election time, whether that's a false flag event, whether that's a large-scale disaster meant to disrupt everything. Something is going to happen, and I've got to be careful on YouTube and not to go into too much detail about my thoughts on this, but around election time, it is going to get pretty crazy, I think. There are a bunch of possibilities and a bunch of scenarios that could happen. You've got everything from the minor stuff like dirt on politicians to full-out assassinations that could be a possibility. And honestly, I'm a little surprised it hasn't happened to this point, but we'll see how 2024 goes. You've also got, leading up to the election, you're going to have that crackdown on misinformation, just like we saw last time, where there are certain things you're allowed to talk about, there are certain things you are not. You've got everybody already pitted against each other, so that is going to go into hyperdrive, making sure that everyone understands who is the threat to democracy. And when I say threat to democracy, I mean threat to their democracy, not a threat to our democracy. And I think the biggest thing with the election coming in 2024 is the potential for civil unrest, for riots, for even a small-scale civil war type situation, and something that could start as a small-scale situation and lead to something much, much more. This has potential to be one of the most disruptive elections that I've seen in my lifetime. They have set the pieces in place. They've been doing this for almost a decade now, of just completely doing whatever they want, saying whatever they want, and demonizing whoever they want. So we are going to see some pretty stressful times around this time of year coming up in 2024. And how this shapes out, this is what I was talking about in the beginning. Do we win the battle or do we win the war? How this shapes out will have a huge impact on the fate of this country, bigger than a lot of people believe. So to me, it's more of a watching how things unfold in early 2024, middle 2024, and just waiting for that final straw to see where things go in the future. I'll be talking quite a bit about the election coming up, I'm sure, but that is one thing. There are so many There are so many different possibilities. There are so many different moving parts these days that it really is. I don't know that there is any way to predict. I think all we can do is prepare and get ready for and do the things that we need to do, because it's just so uncertain. But I think it is certain that there will be some of these situations, maybe not all of them. Maybe they don't play out exactly like I sort of think they will in my head. And honestly, I hope they don't. But preparedness is about planning ahead for all these things, and that's exactly what I plan on doing. So with that, these are just 5 things that I've thought about that are on my radar that really have me thinking about what's going to go on this year, because I truly do believe this is going to be an insane year. And I know I've said this 3-4 years in a row now, and they all have been crazy, but I don't think any of them are going to compare to what we are going to see this year. And I hope I'm wrong, but we will, we'll see down the line. But if you have any ideas, any thoughts on this, what things you are concerned about heading into 2024, leave a comment below and let me know. Also, like I said in the beginning, leave a comment and let me know if it bothers you, or if you could care less that the elites are preparing and building their survival bunkers and probably buying islands and all sorts of different things that they're doing. Leave a comment below and let me know if you care at all about that. But with that, everyone, take care and prepare. Make sure and subscribe if you haven't subscribed to the channel. Take care and prepare, and we will talk to you all later.